Hey guys, it's Nick from Drop Spotlight. We're here with Angels of Dresden musician Brad Sinsel. How you doing today, Brad?
I'm doing good. Good to be with you.
Sweet, awesome. Thank you so much for taking your time for the interview today.
Yeah. Thanks for taking time to talk with me.
Oh, no problem, no problem. And first question, Brad, let us know, our fans, how did you become a musician and get into the music scene?
Well, the plan was I was going to grow up and be a tennis pro.
Oh,
Somewhere along the line, probably in the sixth grade, I started a band. And year by year, there was less tennis and more band stuff. And by the time I got into high school, without question, singing was the one thing I did that didn't involve a whole bunch of complications. It was a peaceful place to be. So I picked that.
awesome, awesome. I know you've been playing for a couple of years as a singer. How do you feel about being a singer?
Well, I'll have my 67th birthday at the end of May.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And they say 67 is the new 27. So
Oh, yes, it is.
I'm watching my health because it takes a little bit more than it used to do what I do. And what I do is pretty bombastic. So there's a lot of exercise, keep it in shape, good health, and knock on wood.
That's great to hear, man. That's great to hear. Um, so, how did you create Angels of Dresden?
Well, my background was started in 79 with a band called TKO. Um, did massive touring, stayed with them for probably 10 years, bringing us into the late 80s when I switched over to a band called War Babies. We were signed to Columbia, and that was short-lived. And then I had a son, and grunge had hit, which kind of changed the whole network. So I thought it was a good time to take a break, but I actually continued to record via file sharing with my good friend Brent Arns, who's the producer and one of the musicians in Angels of Dresden. And we started demoing out stuff through file sharing. When the pandemic hit, it made sense to, rather than me fly back to Minneapolis from Washington State, to just refine our methods of file sharing, because the demo sounded like polished masters. So we just did a little bit more work, and with the addition of Zoom, it was as close as being in the same room as we could get. So we also, Angels of Dresden is a revolving situation where new players on each new song. We kept Carl Kennedy, the drummer, from the Rods for several of these. Brent Arns, Mike McCready from Pearl Jam is on 3 of them. Well, excuse me, he's on 2 of them. He co-wrote a third. And it's always great having Mike on, because we go way back, probably 40 years. And the great thing about a revolving lineup is that bands are always their strongest when it's like dating, that those first months, everything's magical. And then somewhere along the line, a Yoko Ono shows up and the whole thing goes to hell. So by that revolving unit, the Yokos never seem to show up. Nobody has time to cop an attitude.
Oh, yes. And plus, it keeps things fresh. I know sometimes people, after a while, can be like, oh my God, I can't get my creative input. I'm hitting like a writer's block.
Or they paint themselves creatively into a corner, and there's the only way out is to go join another band. So this has a built-in system to avoid all that. Except for me, I'm the one that's always there. So I have to be mindful, and I hit blocks all the time. Last week I hit a big one and I put everybody on hiatus. Let's just take a break. Um, Brent Arns is producing and co-writing on this latest thing. Strong verse, strong bridge, and the chorus I'd written sucked, and it was like there has to be an alternative for this. And I realized I'd hit a block, so I told everybody, Bryn's going to go play, I think, a drive-in show festival in the Twin Cities. I said, go focus on that. Let's come back to this. Because sometimes if you walk away, then those repetitive ideas that got you in that corner seem to fade and new ideas come.
That's true, and it makes it easier as well because you really think it over, and then you're like, maybe I should do it this way, do
Yeah,
it that way. The little choices, the little details that makes
right.
it powerful.
And we're not under any time pressure. This has been a blessing during the lockdown periods in that it gave an outlet for creativity, because I spent the first 6 weeks of 2020 in my pajamas, man, staring at the TV, Tiger King.
Yeah.
I remember I was shaving and I thought maybe I should shower today. And that led to the opening line of the song that came out of that. After those 6 weeks, I approached Brent and I said, it's time to start recording again. So realizing I'd been in my pajamas for 6 weeks. No, it was 14 days. That was it. 14 days in my pajamas. And as soon as I said 14 days in my pajamas, I went, that's the opening line of the song. So we wrote a song called Home for a While, just observational of what I was going through and what the rest of the people I know and worldwide were going through, just this craziness of that lockdown. And it was a great outlet, and it shook off the shackles of lockdown, and it felt good to create.
Oh, that's great to hear. That's great. I know a lot of people felt they had the shackles because of the lockdown, but the creativity is just booming. People want to explode with things that they're imagining.
Yeah. And other places are opening up and others are locking down. I think as we speak, France is locking down. I'm like, here we go again.
Just gotta enjoy those quick, small moments before things could change really quickly.
Right. A lot of musicians are doing what AOD is doing, in that they're returning to recording, because you had all these bands that have been around for years that hadn't put anything out, and they had no touring outlet. So they went, well, I guess we'll go back in the studio. So it'll be interesting to see what that looks like next year, if those things turn into albums and hopefully touring to support said album. But everything's looking like 2022, man. So as far as I can hear.
It is, man. I know a lot of the stuff has been pushed more. Many people thought that was going to be early this year, but everything's being pushed to late 2021. But
Right.
now a lot of people seeing that everything's being stacked up. So like, you know what, we can wait another year on February and April 2022, just because they don't want to compete with others, because that's before they had no one to compete on a certain day. And now there's 30 different events, 30 different little things going on that little moment that day, where they want to bring the creativity out their project, but it's going to be hampered by so many things at that same time.
I'm already seeing reports of the infrastructure of rock, the sound and lights, crew, those people have found other occupations. So the question is, how many are really going to come back? because it's not for the faint of heart to work in this business. Some of them locked into actual jobs that don't have the pitfalls that the music industry has. Will they be back, or are we going to have a big shortage of support? And that, I'm sure, if they're not, majority of them aren't coming back, or a percentage, there'll be a training program. Instead of rock camp, maybe we need a crew camp, you know.
That's a fantastic idea right there. Just because there's got to be crew, you know, there's got to be someone manning the lights, someone tuning the guitars, getting things ready, the production managers, you know.
Stay up all night.
Oh yeah.
Cold pizza and warm pop for breakfast.
Oh, that's
All part of
delicious.
the training.
They'll get used to it. They're used to it during this past pandemic.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
So, as Angels of Dresden, as a revolving door of musicians, are there any musicians that you have been eyeing that you would like them to participate, and maybe in a song or multiple songs?
Yeah, right now, working with multiple drummers, specifically Carl Kennedy of the Rods. He's working on one, another one, Jeff Cathan, who's Paul Rogers' drummer. Also, he played with Bad Company, I think at Wembley. I'm not sure. I'm wrong with that. But he was in one of the first bands I joined when I moved to Seattle. So I connected with him. I said, hey, I got this song. Need some new drums on it. It's got a count off. Take it. So Jeff Cathan is the second drummer. Third is Ken Mary, who was with me in TKO. He left TKO to become Alice Cooper's drummer.
Ooh.
And House of Lords, and now he's with Flotsam Jetsam. And he's, like I said, he's from the Phoenix area now. So Steve Gaynor is a session guy, one of the first guys I met when I moved to LA. And we've been friends forever. And he seems to be playing some part in everything. Great guy, great player. And the crazy thing is, Bren producing is 9 times out of 10, he comes up with the better guitar parts. It kind of saves some time, but the fallback for half the material has been Mike McCready from Pearl Jam. And Mike's just a sweetheart. He's one of the only kind guys in rock I know. And I ought to know, yeah, I know a ton of rock guys, and most of them are assholes. But Mike is this incredibly kind guy who always does me a solid. And I've done some projects with him in his fundraisers for Crohn's, colitis, and I think the current song we're working on, he's a co-writer, but won't be playing on. I think Steve Gaynor's got the catbird seat for that. But you start inviting people and you get more input. Suddenly they're saying, well, what about so-and-so? So it broadens. The problem is how do you tour with a thing like this? We'll need a bus, we'll need a train.
A couple of trains.
Yeah.
But that's pretty cool. You have those amount of musicians that are wanting to come and create music. And Mike McCready, I'm a big Pearl Jam fan, as well as Mike McCready. The way he, that's awesome hearing that story of him being kind and being out there. The way he plays his instrument and the guitar, you could feel the emotion, the tenderness, yet the powerful vibe that comes through it. And I feel that's like one of the major backbones for Pearl Jam as well.
Yeah, he's on the song that's currently being pushed, The Criminal. It's his smoking solos that just jump out at you, and they're classic Mike. He has a lot of metal in him, but somewhere along the line, he got turned on to Stevie Ray Vaughan,
Ooh.
and he doesn't always have a chance to use that. And he used it with all his power on this one. And again, just a joy to have on board.
That's great to hear. That's great to hear. With the future songs coming up, what do you want fans to know when they listen to them? What do you want them to feel?
Well, everything I write, um, I like it to be in the ear of the beholder. Let them figure out, the lyrical content. Um, Most things are autobiographical for me, but I've always written that way, and I always get a response where people relate it because somebody else, and it less isolates me because I know that somewhere out there somebody listened to that and they went, "Yeah, that's me too. That happened to me." So one of the drawbacks with writing autobiographical feels story of the A&R guy asking the songwriter, "How's the song coming? What's taking so long? I haven't lived the bridge." So that's kind of, you just want people to relate to what you're doing. So when metal got into all the dragons and wizards, and I was kind of the cold man out, you know.
Oh yeah, and metals evolve so many times, but people know where to look. That sound is that person. That sound is that band, and the fans still regurgitate for it. They want more for it. That's really awesome what you're doing with Angels of Dresden, bringing these musicians together and showcasing the creativity that they may not do it on other bands and the other parts of stages, but you're giving them an outlet where it evolves metal to a different direction where the full creativity is there for these musicians. And we thank you for that, man.
Well, thank you. One of the things that people will find when they start checking out Angels of Dresden is it's very eclectic. It's not, you can't put it in a box. It's just great songs. That's the only rule. It has to be a great song. So with that in mind, take for instance, The Criminal. Um, I flew down to Burbank to record with Steve, and I said, when I got there, I said, "Look, I still haven't written the second verse, but I'd rather bring somebody else in to do the second verse." He goes, "Well, who are you thinking?" I said, "I don't know. I big fat rapper with a gold tooth to be the juxtaposition in the song." And he kind of scratched his head. He says, "I really don't know anybody like that." And he thought, he goes, "How about an amazingly hot Asian chick?" And I said, "That's bizarre. Let's go for it." So he contacted Jessica Van, the actress, and she's currently on Amazon Prime as the lead character in a series called Bulge Bracket. And amazingly talented actress. And she got in the studio, and I said, "Look, why don't you take today off and go home and write what you want to sing as my counterpart in this?" And she says, "Oh, I can do it now." And I said, "Okay." So she sat down. Within 10 minutes, she goes, "Okay, I'm ready." And then I'd never heard her sing before, but here's this angelic voice that all of a sudden explodes into a monster. And I was like, my mouth hit the floor. So I'm a big fan of Jessica's, and it was great to have her on board. In the land of metal, I could have never got away with that, but this is my show. So if you don't like it, piss off.
Oh, that's awesome. That's really cool. I never thought about that. They people had the deep metal inside them. They just needed to be released, and you gave her that outlet and showcased something where fans never seen before. And I can't wait for that. You know.
It's definitely coloring outside the lines, which in, The thing where I got really bogged down in metal is it had too many rules. And I've been around too long to think that any of those rules are going to last very long.
Mhm.
And rules are made to be broken in that
Yeah.
genre. So I'm breaking a lot of rules, but having a good time doing it.
Well, we bend the rules everywhere with a medal, we bang our heads and just have fun, away from the norms from everybody else. We just want to have fun.
Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. So, Brad, lastly, where can our fans find you on social media to keep in touch and find out more news for Angels of Dresden?
Well, let's start out with where you can hear it.
All right.
It's streaming only until we have enough that we decide we have an album. Then there'll be hard copies circulating. But right now it's streaming everywhere. You get your streams, your Spotify's, your Amazon, I can't name them all. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, yeah.
And they can find us on Facebook under Angels of Dresden. And we'd love to, we're constantly as members in there chatting and you get the latest news on what's going on with the people and who's new and who's going and who's coming.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I'll make sure to put the information in the description of this interview.
I think we're on Twitter
as well
too.
as an article for
Although
it.
I stay away from Twitter. I'm old school, man.
Oh, yeah.
Although my wife finally forbade me to have a landline. I'm like, every house should have a home phone. No. So,
You gotta have it there, man. You gotta have it.
right. Well, the cable companies were wooing me for years with a bundle where you get cable, but you also get a landline
Mhm.
for $180. You know?
Well, if it's in the package.
Right. Bundle this.
Oh, yes. But thank you so much for today's interview, Brad.
This has been
So
fun.
insightful, so much stories. This is very awesome, man.
All right, my friend.
And fans, be sure to check out Brad Sinsel and the band Angels of Dresden on your streaming services. Links are below. And have some fun, guys. This is Vic from Drop Spotlight. We'll see you at the cons.